Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome back to our second session of the day. And in this session, we're going to delve into some of those issues we also already very much addressed in our first session as we focus on conquering competitiveness in times of change. So in the first session, we focused more on those global challenges, how developments in the outside world are impacting on Europe and affecting business. But inevitably, we began to also look about what we're doing internally and how that impacts on our ability to compete in this world. So we're going to build on all of that. But first, somebody said in the first panel, it's really good to hear from companies on the ground, those individual stories. So to provide some inspiration and food for thought for this session, and indeed our sessions later on, we're going to get a little bit of an insight into what it's like on the ground, a real-life experience from a successful European startup. Some of you will have already visited the 3D printing area, but this is a company that has been designing phones, smartphones, tablets, 3D printer, all from the ground up, and it's grown incredibly rapidly. Now has 1,200 employees, and it featured in a recent Financial Times article on February the 21st, talking about what the Financial Times called Spain's baby unicorns. So it is my great pleasure to represent the baby unicorn being known as BQ, David Béjar, who is Vice President of the Supply Chain and a co-founder of BQ, to tell you a little bit more about the company and how it's done so well.
Well, thank you very much for such a lovely introduction, and thank to the Financial Times for calling me a baby unicorn. I think that's something good. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am David Béjar. I'm one of the founders of BQ. And what is BQ? Well, I want to explain you in a nutshell. BQ started in 2003, and we were 6 almost engineers in the Polytechnic University of Madrid. We started to sell electronics through the internet, so nothing special in there. But then, working very hard in our 20s, we became a consumer electronics brand. And in 2009, we started to sell e-readers. In 2011, we started to sell tablets. In 2013, we started to sell smartphones, everything assembled in China. But all of a sudden, 2013, we became the 3rd most popular brand in Spain after Apple and Samsung. By the end of that year, 2013, we made the most important decision ever. We wanted to design everything. We wanted to control everything from Europe. So from 400 employees to 1,000 in 1 year, it's a very big thing for us. So what happened after 2013, I will show you in the next slides. First, we have our smartphones. Everything is 100% designed in Europe and manufactured in China. But we don't do only smartphones. We have our educational robots. We are fully committed with the education of the next generation. We want to create more engineers. So let the kid play with our robots. Let them learn how to code. And the good thing about this is that everything is European. The final assembly is in Poland. We also have our IoT devices. Everything talks about the Internet of Things today. But the Internet of Things, what is the Internet of Things? We created our smart light. You can control the lighting of your house from your smartphone. And everything is European. We assemble in Spain. And of course, you saw the 3D printers in the corner. For me, I am an IT engineer, and still I believe this is like magic, because we don't print on a piece of paper. We print things, and that is incredible. And what is more incredible, we are very competitive. We are one of the best 3D printers in the world, and everything is designed and assembled in Europe, more concretely in our factory in the north of Spain. So you've been talking a lot about China, and I've been living in China for 11 years. I live in China today, and I know many things about China. So I think there are many challenges, but I'm going to tell you just a couple of them. So let me start with the economies of scale. Do you think that is the same as startup, the same startup, if that startup is created in Europe, in China, or in the United States? I don't think so. We didn't use any external investment, ever. We did everything with our own money. And that is pretty amazing, too. We didn't need it. We had a great product. But also a 45 million people country. Now we want to expand into Europe. And we find the first problem. 28 markets, 24 official languages. This is not like the United States. This is not like China. The fragmentation is making us a little bit weak. But it's not only about the fragmentation. It's also about the promotion from my government. I am Spanish, and I am very proud to be Spanish, and I am very proud to be European. And when I see in the news Angela Merkel using a German car, I think that's very normal. It would be surprising if she was using, I don't know, a Toyota or a Hyundai. But then I look at my politicians, and they all use iPhone. Is Apple American or European? I don't know, because it looks like everyone is really in love with iPhone. There are more options out there, and especially there are more options in Europe. I feel very sorry about Nokia. I really miss them. But, well, there are other chances. Then I can tell you something about competition. We've been talking before, competition, yes, but if it's fair. Well, in the electronics, in my field, I don't think competition is fair at all. First of all, because of the economy of scale, but second, because there are some issues with China. It's not only about the security issues. I remember that in the United States, companies like Huawei and ZTE are forbidden in the public sector because of security reasons. But in China, where I live, civil servants, they use Chinese smartphones in order to boost security, according to the South China Morning Post. So is it everything about security? I don't know. But it's very nice to have a strong European brands in technology. Actually, it's very nice having a strong car brands in Europe. But let's see what happens when Apple, Tesla, or Uber starts seriously dealing with the self-driving cars. So I don't know if we are ready for that, because all the technology is not in Europe. All the technology is in the US and in China. So the technology is everything, and it will be everything in the future. So is the intellectual property, the state-owned companies, but let me focus why I believe competing against China is not fair. I say there, they destroy the competition to establish a monopoly in the long term. I call this the Amazon strategy. Amazon is not Chinese, but the Amazon strategy, we started selling e-readers. The Amazon strategy is to kill the competition. They reduce the profit margin until it's impossible to survive. And after that happens, after all the bookshops in the United States close down, then they go and open 300 bookshops. Isn't that incredible? I'm a businessman. From the business point of view, it's awesome. But I don't think it's very fair, because if you can afford to lose money for 7 years and kill everyone, and then, surprisingly, you don't have competition, well, that's a little bit against my moral and ethics. But let's talk about the European Union. This is not only a problem of China. European Union, I need to translate everything. When I want to go into the German market, French market, UK market, I need to translate everything. But it's not only about the language. I need to adapt to 24 different laws, 24 different markets, distribution channels, VAT. I need to hire people with so much different salaries. I don't think being European is kind of an advantage for me inside of the European Union. And in Q4 2017, we are going to start assembling the smartphones in Europe. We are going to assemble the smartphones in Spain. And it's not because we have support from the European Union. It's because we want to. It's because we want to create jobs in Spain. It's because we want to create jobs related to technology. Because technology, for me, is everything. It's really the future. So I think it would be nice to hear some European policies about really adding value in here. Because if we lose technology, that is not going to be back. And it's very sad that in Europe we don't have any of the top 10, there is no European companies among the top 10 technology companies of the world. Why we don't have any Apple or Samsung or Facebook or Google or Twitter or Baidu or Huawei or Tencent? Why? So that is exactly why I'm here today. I am here to ask you why technology, consumer electronics, is not a priority for European people. Why we don't see the bad times coming. So if you have an answer for that, I would be pleased to hear your comments. Send me an email to david@bq.com. I really appreciate if you enlarge my vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, we've heard that it can be done, a remarkable success story, but we've also heard about some of those challenges, David highlighting there, that fragmentation that, as you say, makes us weak. We've already had talk about the single market and its role in our competitiveness. How do we tackle that? How do we make it a reality and overcome that fragmentation? Tackling unfair competition, that was something we came to in the last panel. So lots to discuss, and David, they will be here all day, and I think your 3D printer will be working throughout the day, so if you haven't seen it yet, do go and take a look.